Great. Welcome, everyone. There we go. All right, we'll give people just a minute or so to get settled and logged in. I see people streaming in. We're really excited to have you all here for today's conversation on how post-entry findings improve future import compliance. So we'll do a special focus on post-entry audit, ACE reviews, and how better connected data can help teams reduce risk and manual effort. So we'll give everyone, as I said, just another minute to join. For anyone who's on already, this is a recorded session. So just to let you all know now, I will make that announcement again in about a minute or so. Um, all right. All right. I say we go ahead and get started. Be aware of everyone's time. I know things are very busy these days. Every minute of the day seems to count. So again, as we're getting started, a few quick housekeeping items. So today's session is being recorded. As I said, we will share the recording after the webinar. Secondly, we have a Q&A box available. It's down at the bottom of your screen, I believe. If you click on more, if you don't see it right away, you should have a little question mark Q&A. You can post questions in there. We will likely keep most of the questions until the end, but we have Lauren on moderating, so if the question is, very applicable to the conversation at hand, we may interrupt and answer some of those. So just keep that in mind. You can post them in there. And then finally, we'll move through three parts today. So we'll start with Spencer, who we're very excited to have on with us today. Spencer will walk us through kind of real world, real experience post-entry audit challenges that he sees in customs brokerage every day. And then I will talk a little bit more through how those challenges connect to a broader data quality life cycle. And then after that, I will do a short bite demo and updates on some of our recent updates and answer any questions on those tools. So just a little bit more on why we thought focusing on this topic today would be great, is because obviously the more data that comes in, the more you have to manage. There's increasing regulatory complexity and less room for error. I think everyone on this call probably saw the recent CSMS guidance. There are new reports coming out of ACE. You have CAPE reports. So all of these new reports that are available are, again, new data sources that you can be using. And so the challenge isn't often that the data doesn't exist. It's just a lot of times it's sitting in different systems, different reports, different formats, different workflows. And this all becomes very painful during a post-entry audit. So we are thrilled to have Spencer on with us today. Spencer is the co-founder and president of Trade Xcelerators. He brings more than 2 decades of experience in global logistics and customs brokerage. Spencer has held senior leadership roles at multiple companies and brokerages and NVOCCs, and he is focused, I would say, day to day on helping companies simplify their fragmented systems, improve data visibility, stay ahead of constant changes. I've been talking with Spencer about the IEPA refund process for a few months now, and I'd say he's got that well prepared and well understood. So, Spencer, thank you so much for being here today. And with that, I will turn it over to you.
Ah, thanks for the nice introduction, Ann. Yeah, I needed a break from the IEPA zone for a minute. All my clients that haven't paid attention to it have all suddenly tried to all do it at once and ask for their refunds right away, right? Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, we're Trade Accelerators as a customs broker. We're about 35 people. We do about 1,000 entries a month. We've been a Byte client several months now and real happy with the classification, the tariff lookup tools, and recently having the opportunity to try to automate a lot of our back end compliance audit processes. To the holy grail really is read all of our data and our documents at some point and prioritize those entries that should be manually reviewed by our senior license brokers that have limited time. And we all know as brokers, it's not really possible to do a manual, detailed audit review with your senior people every time and promptly, right? So you can catch errors and mistakes earlier in the process and do your PSC, advise your client and make corrections before they manifest themselves later and have more negative consequences to your client or your operations. So uploading ES 003 reports, different types of data into Byte is a great way to look at all your entry data and help you get a recap or synopsis really of what you may want to target and look at first. And that's something that I've been working and discussing with Byte and with Ann specifically, and very interested of how we could make that audit process just light years more efficient than historically that it's been. Have to admit we don't. When you get busy, the auditing can get put to last or things missed because it's such a heavy manual process to try to do it or spot checking, which AI and by combining those two really give us amazing opportunities there. So that's kind of what we've been doing with Byte on the post entry. It's been a love to have it, didn't know where to get it, and figuring out new ways to have it help us cover just mountains of data and documents to zero in on the entries that really need to be reviewed and fixed.
Thanks, Spencer.
How'd
Um,
that go? Is that okay?
Yeah, great. Yeah, a
Yeah.
few kind of follow-up questions for you. Whether it's with Byte or with your, prior systems, what have you seen in terms of best practices, to narrow down if you have 1,000 entries a month, what's your recommendation for anyone who's listening who may be new to the post-entry audit process? Like how to raise the risky transactions to the top or kind of how to even start that
I
process.
mean, I would look at the steel, aluminum 232 related entries. Those are always the derivative list. Those are always the complicated ones. A multi-line entries as opposed to single line, right? Just more things to classify, more um, more HTS numbers per entry, which is really what it drives your audit process. A single line item, it's less likely to have a mistake than an 18 line item, 232 entry with lots of components. So that's a great way to zero in on those entries first.
I was going to say, do single line items even exist anymore?
Rare, they're there. Some clients are clever and can figure out how to consolidate them by HTS to try to minimize or expedite the clearance. We're fortunate to have a fair volume of that, but if you're trying to do that initial narrowing and zeroing in on entries, I would start there. Your PGA entries in addition to your CBP is just another area for review on top of classification, CBP classification as well. Um, Missing a Lacey Act, all of the other types of PGA requirements that go with it can be another audit process.
Great. And then I know you and I have also spent a lot of time talking kind of more from a broker's perspective, you're expected to audit, but how can you really monetize that, or how do you get yourself paid for this audit work that you're expected to do, but you can't really charge for?
Right, that's twofold, right? The clients expect brokers to be all-knowing, up to date on the most recent changes, which lately have been weekly.
Mhm.
How do you spend time educating yourself, making sure you don't make a mistake? We like Byte to help us stay out of trouble in the first place, by making sure we get the right sequence and order of the HTS numbers, making sure we don't miss the PGA or there is a PGA on it, sharing that internally so we don't make the mistake in the first place. On the back end side, right, the audit process is something we all know we should do. We generally don't get paid for it, right? It's sort of the compliance, supervision, control element, and that's pretty broad for brokers that often get have to figure out lots of obscure, vague classifications with clients and make pressure decisions on how to classify it and deadlines balanced with the compliance side. Um, so having an efficient, automated way to do that post summary audit, right? And deciding when to do it, right? Do you do it before you pay your statement? Do you do it a fixed number of days after the release, the one USG? Figuring out what's the right time, and if that can all be automated, covering a lot of ground quickly, maybe before you did it, paid it on your periodic statement, make that PSC or that correction before, or even doing the correction before you paid it, right? Where you don't even need to do the PSC. So, but it has to be automated because doing it manually, no one's paying you for that work, right? They pay you to do the entry and to clear it, not for you internally to review and analyze it, typically with your strongest, best people, who are your most expensive people, that you want more customer facing front end as opposed to auditing whatever your manual audit process is today to try to find these mistakes for your junior entry writers, that can make mistakes. How do you catch them? It's got to be automated. So this is really the first time for me that AI companies such as Byte have really given us a tool and a capability to them ingest a lot of all of our data and then help zero in on here's what you should look at, and not replacing the human review, but making sure you prioritize those entries that jump out and say these are probably the ones you should look at first. Because I like to say, show me the stuff that's on fire first, right? I need to look at that. I don't need to scan through 50 entries to find three that are on fire. And that's what I think by in automating the post-entry audit, really those types of tools are brand new. And it's a great time as a broker to, one of the few good times as a broker, to have these new tools to help us be more efficient. Out of so many bad things that take tons of our time, this is a way to get some back.
We used to ask people, what's your hair on fire issue? So yeah, what are your on fire entries, and kind of going to those first, right? Helps you then weed it all out and get through it all. So that's great advice.
And
When
the
you're
cool thing is we've noticed some audits and some issues, and what we do is we go back into to Byte, and we probably realize we didn't run the entry through the tariff classification tool in the beginning. So using Byte in the back end and then circling it back, and if your staff didn't run it through Byte in the beginning, makes it an efficient way to find out what you may have done incorrectly or wrong.
Mhm. Yeah. And then you mentioned kind of the timing of when to either address changes or when to do the audit. Do you have any kind of best practices that you employ or that
So,
you've
so
seen?
today,
Yeah.
without really with Byte, so before we have two people that process our statement, right? When we're about to finalize those clients that are on either on their own PMS or on our broker PMS statement,
Hmm.
5 days before that 15th business day PMS debit, we're going through and reviewing, my two senior people that do our statement. It's not an accounting person that process our statement, but my most experienced Entry writers are in charge of the statements, and we break it into two based on if it's our New Jersey, Puerto Rico, or Miami offices. And as they're going through looking at client entry, just kind of using a gut or knowing, oh, we haven't seen this client before. If it's a regular client that our part database is pretty tight and that client's SKU doesn't change a lot, that's probably just a pretty low risk entry as it is. If they see new clients or client that typically has a lower per entry duty amount or something stands out, they go in and they do a review at that point, hoping to catch and do an entry summary correction before we've paid the duties instead of catching it after, waiting for a liquidation date and being able to do a PSC.
Okay, great. And you just mentioned the product database, so that opens up a whole nother can of worms that we'll get into and bite a little bit today. But how do you typically approach taking your findings from your audits and looping those back into your product database? Are you able to do that, or
No, it's
you know,
it's a great question. It's client specific, right? We didn't have a SKU in it. Our customer didn't tell us. They added a new item. Happens all the time. Usually we're trying to make sure we add these to our part database when we get these new parts that pop up seemingly out of nowhere with no advance notice from the client, but you catch them on page 4 of a 10-page invoice at Friday at 4 o'clock. Always happens then. Um, how do you classify it and quickly add it to your part database? And then circle back with your client just to kind of, hey, could you, any other changes? Any other new products you guys have that we can get ahead of this, pre-classify, update our part database, and be ready in advance instead of having to do it last minute, which is where the mistakes can be made because you're under a deadline, last free day, got to get the cargo moving, and that pressure, doesn't make for a good compliance environment.
yeah, awesome. Um, I can hop into my kind of quick PowerPoint, Spencer, unless you have any other kind of post-entry audit suggestions or comments. Obviously you'll jump in when
I
I'm showing my
mean, I
point
just
too.
encourage anyone to, this is pretty new for Byte, and then I think new in general for a lot of the other new tools that are out there. It, I mean, you can't just download your entry list into Chat GPT and say, find my mistakes, right? That's not an option. We need a partner in this that builds a robust, accurate database to read our data. And then like Byte is really accommodating, interested, and it's a great time to sort of start the process, ask the questions, sample it, dip your toe in it, audit 50 entries just to get comfortable for what it looks like, but not even trying or not exploring some of the new technology and AI products that can really help you find things that you would just stumble over accidentally. Or when something, a 28 or a 29 is issued, or the client catches your mistake even worse.
Awesome. Thanks, Spencer.
Mhm.
So as I said, I'll do just a quick PowerPoint. It's more just so that I can share it after and you all can have something to jog your memories as you think back about the webinar. But I'll go through this pretty quickly here. Let's see, go ahead and share. Okay, so data quality in the trade compliance life cycle. So as I said, as I asked Spencer, how can we use what we find in the post entry audit process to help inform our future data processes? Um, Again, as I mentioned at the beginning, lots of regulations, lots of data in different places, lots of different people involved. You've got your brokers, importers, everyone trying to work together. How can we make this a little bit more streamlined, bring it all together, and make it useful for trade compliance processes? So one, just data quality in general. So, one thing I've seen a lot lately, is the ES003 is a standard report, but then you can add different columns, or we'll see data from some customers where they'll output a column that's the origin country code with the country in the same column, but then the export country as just the ISO2 code. And so there's like a disconnect there between the data quality. So just I encourage everyone as you're looking at your data, as you're looking at your audits, even if you're working in Byte, not working in Byte, just looking at your data overall and starting to build out some kind of a like data practice and how you keep track of your HTS codes, your countries of origin. Um, Excel is great. I know a lot of people are using it. There are also some really great tools outside of Excel or that you can tack on. Happy to help think through that with anyone, but just keep in mind kind of your data practices as you approach your auditing. Um, but this is what I'm kind of most excited about in all of this, and what we've had a lot of fun here at Byte, helping customers think through. And this is a little compliance cycle that I'm sure everyone on this call is very familiar with. So just the process here, starting at your product data and classification setup. So we've talked with importers, I've talked with brokers, I've talked with brokers who say, we have a great Excel spreadsheet for every customer, that we have a different Excel spreadsheet for every customer. There's no consistency. So, starting with this product data setup, and also again going to classification. So, Spencer, you touched a little bit on classification from a broker perspective,
Mhm.
and I know we get a lot of questions from importers on should I be doing this classification? Should my broker be doing this classification? Um, so yeah, just getting the data set up, understanding that that's a great first step, and I think really helps the brokers out in at least having a systematic way of tracking the products that they're bringing in.
That was, if I could add,
Definitely.
what we really like on the classification tool is the ability of multiple of my staff to collaborate on a classification, right? That everyone can see it in Byte and can use it, can save it, can make comments on it, so that a junior entry writer can add it, and another person can go in and look at it and review it and make sure it's accurate, right? I mean, there's lots of different ways to classify, even in Byte, right? Based on what you input and what you add and what you know about the product. So being able to collaborate, save it, go back and retrieve it later in case you're classifying something not arriving for a while, or someone's going to add it to the part database later on a set schedule, not on the fly. So that ability for multiple people to work on the same classification, store it, save it, and retrieve it is efficient right there, as opposed to the other options we had, right? Email thread, put notes in a client profile, um, not the most efficient, easy way or the best technology to efficiently share and collaborate on a classification.
Yeah. And then from there, moving to this pre-entry preparation. And I think um, with the previous iteration of the 232s and the need to keep track of metal content and all of that, having those questions, answers to those questions kind of readily available, I think that from a data storage perspective, it became very clear very quickly that, being able to keep all of that information and have it ready for, preparing entries became more and more important. So, kind of as a step two, not only maintaining your product database, but having that information ready for the pre-entry preparation process. Going next to entry filing and clearance. Um, I, Spencer, you're the broker here, and I think most people on the call are brokers, so I won't go too far into that one. I think you all know very well what your entry filing and clearing process looks like. Um, but I don't want to, Spencer, if there's anything you want to say about that, feel
The
free. But
more, I mean, we all know the more prep work you do ahead with the client, their part list, their product list, you want to have that done before the shipment arrives. That's the goal. Doesn't always work out that way. Um, Having Byte, you can do a much more thorough, efficient job classifying versus doing it manually. And I have a two seasoned entry writers, 25-year better brokers than me that work for me, um, that were a little hesitant to try to give up their, read the cross ruling, read the head notes, explanatory notes, save it, paste copies in an email thread, a Word document, or however you use to prove your work on how you classified something. Um, Getting them to use Byte to make, I'm not trying to replace your knowledge. I want to make it fat. You're more efficient at how you do what you do, not replace and alter what you do, and give you a place to save it. And that other people on our team can retrieve it and look it up when they need it. Maybe we classified something and didn't get it in the part database. Anyone on our team of 30 people can log in and see what our three senior people may have classified. And instead of a Teams chat, an email, hey, can you share that? It's not in there. Did you put it in the client profile? It's just a much easier way. And then you can watch it, right? Does it change? Um, did an HTS code change or something updated? You got to go back and start all over again. If it's in Byte, it's pretty easy. It changes automatically when those new HTS or new changes come up this week. Um, Stay updated. Instead of having to go redo all your work over again, you're just not as productive. So having that work reside in Invite just gives you a lot more opportunities to be proactive, more efficient, collaborate, share on the front end. Hopefully reducing audit issues on the back end. But if you do, we should be doing a post audit, right? And then how do we do that efficiently? Sorry, Ann, hijacking
yeah,
your
no, that brings us to
show
number
again.
four, which I think you've covered really well today. The post-entry review. So a lot of what Spencer talked about at the beginning fits in this number four here. But I think, the step that I'm most excited about is using what we find in this post-entry review and moving into the database updates and control improvement, and how can we automate that? So how can we take these post-entry insights and feed everything that you learn in that audit process so that the next time you do this, it's easier, it's better, it's faster, and how can we automate that process for you? So this is number five here, and then back into number one is something that we are spending a lot of time at Byte working on, talking to our customers and trying to figure out how we can help automate that process so that the next time you go around this cycle, it's stronger every time you go around the loop. So yeah, that's just the continuous improvement here in the middle is something we're really passionate about, both in our product, but also in allowing brokers and importers in their processes to also improve their processes and their compliance as a bottom line.
Nicely done. I agree with that.
Great. So yeah, again, like I showed, it's a cycle. So going back to kind of the beginning here, the pre-entry data quality, making sure that whether you have it in a product database, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever you have, that you have the correct classifications. We saw, I think it was last year, CBP put out the list of, vague, I forget the exact word, vague product descriptions. So, like making sure that your product descriptions aren't going to get flagged for being incomplete or unclear. And then, yeah, not having missing or inconsistent data elements. If you need to track the value of your steel, keep track of it. And I know I I said value, which I know is a touchy. Everyone has a lot of thoughts on value, but that's another one, making sure that how you've come to your value, you've tracked that, you have um, explanations for how you got to that value, and keeping all of this in one consistent place, um, reduces custom scrutiny, minimizes downstream risk, and just improves entry accuracy overall. So tools that can help, dynamic screening product catalog, and I will show Byte, our product catalog as well. The key thing here is, I think what we are finding is this dynamic screening is so important. As Spencer said, with the tariffs changing weekly, you never know what product's going to be subject to what tariff, and being able to quickly narrow down these are the products that are going to be affected by this new tariff, or these are the products that I don't need to worry about because they're not being affected. Again, just kind of figuring out what's on fire on that day or in that week. Um, I'll skip over this. This will come out as a slide again. A lot of what Spencer talked about. So stacked tariffs, inconsistencies. So just using your post-entry audit, using your compliance as a driver of trust, avoiding any actions or penalties, and then being AI ready. So these are just kind of three um, comments, pieces of advice, things to keep in mind as you're approaching your post-entry audit. Um, Again, another tool in Byte that can help with that is the automated ACE tool. And we did show this a couple weeks ago for anyone who was on. I guess it was 2 weeks ago now. So we have made some updates, and I will walk us through those. And as I said at the beginning, the challenge isn't always that the data isn't available. It's just that it's hard to get it all integrated. It's hard to make sense of it. What is your system or source of truth for your compliance data? What information should be moving between systems, and who's owning that data and keeping the information consistent? And I think this kind of three-step question uh, is great to also keep in mind as importers and brokers are working together. Kind of how do you communicate back and forth between you? How do you make sure that everything is consistent? I've had some great conversations recently with customers who have approached this with their individual broker. But again, that takes some relationship building and trust building. And so, yeah, just keeping this framework in mind, I think is really helpful from a data perspective as well. Um, Spencer, you touched on this a little bit too. We always like to mention at Byte, just as many people are interested in AI, concerned about AI, kind of how does it fit into your systems? So you kind of already said the bottom line here, but our goal here is that AI can improve accuracy, it can improve efficiency, um, but at the end of the day, accountability needs to stay with the human that's in the loop. And that's how we design much of our products, is keeping that human in the loop. So in the classification tool, you'll see, the user feedback that the user has to answer those questions. We also believe very strongly that AI must remain auditable. So again, whether you're using Byte or implementing other AI tools into your workflows, just make sure that you are able to audit that. You should be able to uh, understand and train your staff on interpreting outputs from AI, and then also documenting decision rationale. And this is an interesting one. We got a request recently. I think you'll like this, Spencer. You don't even know this yet. We got a request recently from a customer on the classification tool that we include not only the section and chapter notes and the cross rulings, but a rationale from the AI that says why it reached that classification. So in addition to how the user answered the questions, it used the GRIs in this way and it approached this way. So that is something that we're looking to build into the tool. And again, kind of walking the walk here. This is something that we've recommended as people approach AI that they are able to understand and document decision rationale, and it's something that we want to build into our tooling as well.
Yeah, just my experience, just for everyone interacting with Ann and the team, it's like talking with another compliance professional and broker. Ann's knowledge on the regulations. You're not just talking to an AI company, you're talking to people who have deep knowledge already in what we do for a living, maybe not processing entries, but understanding the regulations that guide our compliance and classification decisions. So it's been an easier, friendly conversation that's productive in evolving what's been a very stuck process for a lot of brokers and how we classify, just the process of it. But taking that leap and doing it in a new tool, it's still kind of the same thing you do. It's just a lot faster with everything there in front of you. Rulings, um, head notes, and then maybe explanatory notes at some point, explaining here it is, and then interacting with it if you don't agree with it, right? You can challenge it, you can go back and do it again, or say, hey, and I've came up with a different classification for this and this reason. It's sort of our effort to make Byte better by the more we interact with it and use it. And that's what I really liked Byte is the willingness to and hungry to get our feedback. Not we're not bothering them. They seek it out and really want us to, how did you do that? What would you have done different? Which is refreshing.
Thanks, Spencer. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, so let me get over to a demo here. Looks like I'm gonna have to log back in, so let me do that. As usual, I had Byte open for hours and hours and hours today, so get myself logged out. Um, but jumping in here, as I said, I think a lot of people who are on today were likely on last week, but I will just quickly run through kind of the analyzer workflow and then also tie that back to our product database and kind of show that loop and how you can go along that import compliance cycle in Byte. So if we start with the ACE analyzer, very easy here to run a new analysis. So you can just drag your ES003 into this modal here. Few updates since last time, I think. No need to follow the template. You export your ES003 from ACE. If you've added extra columns, this is most commonly asked questions. You've added extra columns, you've customized it, that's totally fine. You can still put it in here, run it, um, and I will show you what that looks like. So you can just drop that in there. You do have to put a name in, so testing, and then just hit analyze document. Um, I will go through. So here's one that I ran a couple weeks ago. So these are my automotive tariffs here, and it will load up my entry lines. So the document that I uploaded, just for context here, it flattens, right? So I know we've said this a few times, but it takes your ACE ES003, puts all the entry summary numbers on one line, and outputs it here. So you get findings as well. So findings can be any of these discrepancies and flags. So if there's a missing Chapter 99 code, an unexpected Chapter 99 code, base duty discrepancy, tariff duty discrepancies. Um, all of this will flag in the line if there's any issues. So if I open up one of these, I think these will be missing fees. Here we go. So in this case, we're missing Chapter 99 codes here. So if I open that up, it opens this portal over on the side. It shows what they detected, what Byte detected. And here it looks like no tariffs were applied. If they were applied, they would be in a table right here. And we are missing two pretty important codes here. So I can then see what was missing. Um, Again, a few updates since last time. You can now output your CAPE 1 eligibility. So this will run a CAPE validation criteria and output any results, any entry summary lines that are that fall into phase one. If they miss validation criteria, you can run the exclusions. So you can click on this and export your phase one exclusion. So anything that, as it says, was an IEPA row that did not pass verification checks. In order to run these, you do need specific fields in your ES003. So you need your liquidation date, you need your reconciliation indicator. So there are certain fields that you need there, and those are we can walk you through those. Another really exciting addition is this Byte report PDF over here. And what this is a PDF document summarizing all the findings that were in that ACE run. So you can see the executive summary here, total line items, flagged lines, the total value of everything, total duty. And then it shows your findings by category. So those same flags that I pulled up, you'll see here. And then you can also see the total duty impact on those. So here, there's a chance that I underpaid by $68 on this on these automotive tariffs. And then it also breaks down by tariff type, what you paid. So again, just a quick snapshot of the impacted lines, total value, and total duty by tariff type. Then for each one of the flags, it will walk through details and give you a view of that. So if it's missing Chapter 99s, you'll have a page on that. If it's unexpected Chapter 99s, you'll have a page on that. And you'll have as many as you need here with some recommended actions. And then finally, just our methodology and disclosures. So this will be the same on every report, but just there as a reminder. And that all is just automatically generated as you run your ACE report. So you can run that and get the findings. So once you have your findings and you've gone through and you've audited and you've taken a look and you've determined, we had someone who didn't know how to apply this, or we realized we said that it didn't have aluminum, but really it does have aluminum, and we've been declaring the wrong HTS code. That's where you can then take those findings and start to look in your product database. So in Byte, we've built the product database. And I have my automotive parts here. And when I open up my database, I have this compliance dashboard here. So I can start to see, oh no, I'm missing a country of origin in 6 of my products. I've got invalid HTS codes on 6 products. These are the different countries that I'm importing from. And then again, which ones are on fire? We've got some priority issues down here. So we're this muffler assembly. I have an invalid HTS and a missing country of origin. So you can see those priority issues here. And after you've reviewed your ACE data, you can come in here and actually make updates. So for example, if I open up my vehicle wire harnessing, I have all of my product details here and I can edit them. So I didn't have a value here, and so I need to add a value, right? I missed that, and I realized in my ACE report that my values were all over the place. There was no consistency, and now you can come in and save that in your product database. Also in the product database, it's live, as we talked about, live screening. So if I make a change up here to my HTS code, it'll rerun my customs flags and I can come down and look and see, okay, I've got a PGA code here, what's it for? So if I make any changes up here, those customs flags change. Again, same with my tariff and duty summary. So this will look familiar to anyone using the tariff checker. It looks just the same, but it pulls the information from your product database right into the tariff checker here. So no need to go and enter it there. You can see it all here. And also we're pulling the cross rulings here as well. So if you have someone working on updating a product, you have the cross rulings available here. And then also recently we introduced denied party screening. So you don't need to have a database somewhere else, but this is just again adding to your compliance kind of processes here. So this is screening. Scrolling back up, I've got, oh, it looks like when I saved it, it went away, but I had a manufacturer here of Century Sunshine. And so down here, I've got my denied party screening. So we can see I've got some hits, UFLPA being one of them. So again, you can keep your manufacturer. We're adding vendor as well. So it'll just automatically screen those for denied party screening, forced labor. And again, that just allows you, either as the importer or if you're maintaining this for your broker or as a broker for your client to say, hey, actually, one of your suppliers just has a WRO, right? And that would flag here in this denied party screening. So you can quickly stay ahead of those issues. Adding additional documentation here as well. You can upload documents. And then if you do have assembly, subassembly, bill of materials, you can start to see these are the child components of this assembly. They're coming from Mexico, Taiwan, China, and you can start to kind of think through how potential changes could affect this. And again, as always, leave comments. We've got an audit trail here, so I changed the country of origin on this to Mexico 2 weeks ago, and you can always see that kind of tracked through as well. So if you see, change to Mexico, change to China, changed here, there may be different import requirements, and you can or obviously changes in tariffs, and you can always track that as well. Um, This also, if I go back to my database here, you can send it to a broker if it's an importer. So you can select your broker here, send an Excel template. And this way, again, it's opening up that communication loop. So you're updating your product database, making changes, and you're making sure that the broker has everything that they need. So you can see all the fields that are going to be sent. And if there were any documents saved, you could select which documents you wanted to attach and runs a series of checks here. And then you can also add a note and send the package along. And that'll be sent, and you have that there. Um, So that is kind of just one process. We are building out well, hopefully, building out kind of a way to tie your ACE entries to your product database. So we're still working out exactly what that will look like from a user perspective. But again, moving towards automation and being able to see the entries associated with certain products. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything here. I think lastly, I'm just going to share a different screen for just a second. Um, I will show you the kind of dashboarding. So after you do your post-entry audit, if you need to do further investigation, understand, run what if scenarios, you can use that using your ACE data as well as your product database data and set up dashboards like this. So this is, again, my automotive product catalog. And I have a few different catalog versions in here. So I have my master products. I have if I changed everything and I decided to go everything from China because it was cheaper and I thought I would try that. Or I wanted to go to Mexico and do some nearshoring or just a forecast depending on different countries. So you can see here my overall tariff burden as of today, let's say, across these different catalogs, and I can see by country here. These are all interactive, all customizable. If I wanted to look at specific product IDs, I can select those, apply that. Gonna get logged out again. Come on. Just a second. Get logged back in. Sorry about that. Um, so yeah, you can change your product ID, you can change HTS code, or we can even say like Brazil and Canada, apply those changes and see those are both in my master products. And I can see the total duty in everything that's related to those countries of origin. Um, this is also just a kind of a cleaner view of oops, by SKU, for example, in my different countries of origin. So, and the total duty by each one. You can compare different consolidated metal on the different catalogs. And then we've had a lot of questions coming up recently. Can I see if I look at my ACE data for 2025 and see what I spent in metal tariffs, is there a way to forecast out with the new consolidated metal tariffs what that could possibly look like in 2026? So doing some modeling like that using these visualizations in combination with the data from your product database, the ACE analyzer, and the bulk tariff tool. And then, of course, you can come in here and look at your actual entry information and see that in a table. So this kind of brings together, as we've talked about, the data from all of those different sources and allows you to visualize it in a very customizable way. And we are getting close to the hour here. One last thing, I went through a few of the updates on the ACE analyzer tool. We will be publishing a new change log. I'm not, if anyone's ever looked at our tariff checker change log, that's where like any updates to the data show up. This is our ACE analyzer change log, so you can always track what we're doing. As Spencer said, we are actively seeking feedback. We've gotten a lot of feedback on the ACE tool, both from a UI perspective, so what it looks like, how we could make it more obvious that something's been reviewed, how you can clear your data better, and then also different SPI logic, when it's applying, when it's not applying in the ACE analyzer. So if you're ever curious as to what's coming out, we try to be very transparent on that, and that is all available on this link, and I will be sending this link out shortly. As you can see, we've got a lot lined up to come out on Friday, and then recent updates will show here as well. So if you were in it on Monday and you think something looks different, you can always come in and see if something was changed. And with that, I will stop talking. And we've got a few minutes here for Q&A. Lauren, I'm not sure if you've seen any questions come in or if anyone has sent you direct messages, but happy to kind of open it up here for questions if there are any right now. Let me check my chat as well here. See if anyone has jumped in. Um, Spencer, I think this is for you. Well, I would say it's for you. Um, someone sent me a message. But where do you see companies struggle most with like starting to think about post-entry audit? It looks like prioritizing, I think we talked about that. Documenting the review, getting the right data. So where do you see people struggling?
The first step, um, being intimidated that it's going to be all time consuming to try to even experiment or play with it a little bit. Um, just block off a half an hour, maybe schedule time within, so you don't have to master the whole site or do anything, and do a little prep work before when your ESO3 report. If you don't know how to run that, run it, figure it out. Schedule 30 minutes with Ann. Say, hey, can you just help me? I want to drag and drop it in, make sure I understand what I'm looking at. How do I read this so I know what's in front of me? Most brokers are going to know how to action it pretty quickly once they get data in front of them. But kind of that first step is just put it in there, and you don't have to do it by yourself and try to figure it out. It might be good to that first trial. Just say, hey, and could you have some time at this time or 20 minutes, 30 minutes just to walk me through so I don't fumble and stumble too much trying to do it out of the gate, and then help me understand what I'm reading and looking, I think would help.
Yeah, and we have resources too. If there's anyone who's struggling with ACE, we've got videos that I've made, that CBP's made. So even if it's that, as Spencer said, feel free to email. We have some resources, and I've seen some other really great resources out there that others have put out that I'm willing, to send out as people have questions. So definitely reach out and ask, and we're happy to be a resource there as well.
And I think I have the most heavily edited ESO03 report ever. So every time I'm in there, I think I add like five more things. It's like I feel like I'm shopping at Costco, right? I'm just, oh, I went and had that. I didn't know that was in there.
Nice. Um, All right. I am not seeing any other questions, so I'll give it another minute here before we wrap up. But I do want to just say thank you to you, Spencer, again for joining us. It's always so helpful to have someone who's in the trenches on and to share your knowledge. And we appreciate, the partnership that we have with Byte, but also that you're willing to share that with
Sure. Happy to do it. It's been a help for my whole team. The feedback in the beginning was lukewarm, but now I don't know how most of my team, they'd be furious if they didn't have access to Byte. So it's been an evolution, but I would just try it, get three or four people, challenge them, try to do it, and they see value in it and they want to do it. You're not pushing them to do it. They realize the benefit pretty quickly. Cool. Thanks, Ann, for having me.
Thank you, Spencer, and thank you for everyone who joined today. We really appreciate it taking time out of your busy day. I hope you all, main takeaway here, post-entry audit isn't just about finding mistakes. You can improve your data, strengthen controls, reduce future risk. Get on those product catalogs, and with the right tools, hopefully everyone can spend less time manually sorting through data and making more informed compliance decisions, as Spencer said, faster and hopefully easier. So thank you again. We will follow up with the recording, and if anyone has a need for resources, we will send them out. And yes, Deb, we will send a copy of the recording. I will also send the slides. And so hopefully, if anyone has any questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me. And Spencer, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty available and accessible there. Happy to share any best practices or learn new ones. Collaborating with other brokers. We got to stick together.
Awesome. With that, I will say thank you, everyone, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Take care, everybody. Bye. Thanks, Ann.